to this episode of the Practical Pilot series, something we call the Top 10 Insider Tricks for Pilots, some information that I've developed over years of flying and teaching that I find very helpful. When you did your primary training with your instructor, you had a syllabus. They went through a series of lesson plans, computerized, written, that were going to be based pretty much on standard FAA documents, maybe a commercially available syllabus or a book. So everyone has the same basic knowledge that they're learning as they go along, and then you've added to that over time. So you earned your pilot certificate, and then you started learning things, how things really work, like don't open both doors in a Cessna when it's windy because the wind tunnel blows your charts away, things like that. So what we have here today are 10 things that I think are pretty important for everybody that hopefully will add to your flying experience. So this isn't in any order of importance, but just kind of a series of things I think you'll find helpful. Number one, and this is largely directed at students, have a written plan for your flights. For any flight where you're going to do something to practice, have it written down what you're going to do. So today I did a flight review, for example, with a client, and I have a written plan that I started and that he and I negotiated what's on there. So I have a list of very specific things we're going to do, both in the ground as well as in the flying part, that we've agreed on in advance. Student pilot, you come out to the airport, you don't want to just show up and go, what am I going to do today? You want to have down here, okay, I'm going to do pre-flight inspection, normal departure, go to the practice area, steep turn, slow flight, power on stalls, emergency descent, return to the airport, no flap landing. And as you go through, or whatever it happens to be, and as you go through, check the box. You've done those. So having a specific plan of things to do, that makes your training really efficient. Then after you become a private pilot, or whatever your rating is, continue to fly like that. List the things you're going to practice, and that's going to keep your skills proficient. How many of you do power off stalls after your training? Hopefully not very many, because it's an emergency exercise. But be proficient in all the maneuvers. Practice just as when you were a student. That keeps those skills alive as a pilot. Number two is checklists, and what I call custom checklists. So I have a laminator that I build checklists specific to different types of flying that I'm going to do. All of my clients get something I call the reality checklist. And on here are the flight plan format, the PIREP format, the aviation weather decoder ring, because there's all these codes on here, FU and SA and VA. You don't remember that stuff, what's on here. On the back is the I hope you never have to use it, intercept procedures. You don't want to be making things up when a Raptor pulls up beside you and flashes landing gear and says, follow me. That's not a time to be going, huh? Have it on a checklist. Easy enough if you have a laminator, but they also make pouches that don't require the heat laminator. Simply print it, slide it, put it under some heavy books, and you have your own checklist. So this is my reality checklist. This is my briefing checklist. So pre-start, taxi, pre-takeoff, pre-approach, and landing, all those things, so I don't have to memorize them. Make your own checklist. So you have one for your aircraft. You can add anything on there. Things like close a flight plan, walk the dog, call home, say that you're safe. Make your own custom checklist and add to it over time. Mark your belongings. You're going to go flying. You're going to leave stuff in the airplane. You get back from a flight that was not very good and you're annoyed, or you get back from a flight that was great and you're like, it's the best thing ever. Kind of hate to leave a tablet or a camera or expensive sunglasses in the airplane. You're going to do that, but put your name on it so you can get it back, get it returned. Similarly, when you get into an airplane, go, nice tablet. That's somebody else's. If it has a name in it, great. Get it to them. Otherwise, get it back to the club so that they can get it to them. You'd want them to do that for you. The classic example are sunglasses. You're flying during the day, it's sunset, it's very bright, you have them on, then it gets into dusk and you take them off, and then you land and everything's great, and you wrap up the airplane and these things are sitting in there for the guy the next morning because you don't use your sunglasses at night. So mark your belongings, just a practical, common thing. Figure out how to organize your cockpit. Now we're here at the desk, this isn't a cockpit, but how do you put things? Where do you get them within reach? Are they easy to get over the seat back? And one of the key things I always teach students and clients is what I call chart origami, the Japanese art of folding paper into the complex shapes. This is a standard sectional, and this is my home page on the sectional. Here's my home airport, South County in Northern California. And if I fly north up to San Jose, I flip it over. And if I fly northwest to Half Moon Bay to go have some clam chowder, I flip it over. Or if I'm going to fly east out into the Central Valley, I flip it over. Its north is always up. I can always see where I'm flying and where I'm going. and it's not going to take up a huge amount of space in the cockpit. I can slide it into my knee board. I can put it over onto the cowl or on the windscreen. It's very different flying like this. Let's see. That's how you run into airplanes while you're flying. So practice and learn chart origami. Don't be afraid to mark your chart. I like it when there's pencil and pen marks and it's folded and torn. These things don't last forever, and if they get torn, buy a new one. It's a cheap insurance policy. So learn how to fold a chart, organize your cockpit, have everything right where you want it. The last thing I wanted to talk about here in the classroom session is what I call the right seat companion training. As you become a pilot and you start flying, you'll obviously want to fly with family and friends, and you can enlist them as part of the crew. You can teach them some very basic things like how to find a frequency on a chart, or how to hold the yoke so the wings stay level. Engaging family and friends in the flying gets them to participate and fly with you, oftentimes makes them more relaxed and feel better, safer about the experience. I offer a course to all of my clients or their spouses after their training, what I call the right seat companion. I invite them to have their significant other learn whatever they would like, how to tune a radio, how to hold the wings level, how to find information, listen to weather, just to assist in the flight. From the dramatic, oh, he's passed out, I have to keep the plane safe, to the mundane, just keep the wings level while I figure out our new destination. What I call right seat companion training. I encourage you to ask your flight instructor if your significant other is interested. Get them in the airplane. They'll feel safer, they'll feel better, they'll be a resource and an asset while you're flying, and they'll probably be more interested in flying more often, which after all is, of course, our ultimate objective. Here we are out at the airplane with the top 10 tricks. There'll be 5 out here at the airplane, things that I think are pretty important and useful. I like to do as much as I can before I get into the airplane, simplify my life. Let me show you 2 specific ones right here. The first one is adjusting the seat. When you're actually in the seat, it can be hard to reach the controls, but the controls also aren't designed to be adjusted while you're sitting in them, especially the one that goes up and down. So make your adjustments to the back angle and the height before you get in the airplane. Get everything all set up so you're not trying to fix it once you get in. Another important thing to take care of before we get in the aircraft and start it is the headsets and the intercom system. Make sure everyone can hear each other communicate, that the volumes and squelches are all set. You can imagine it's very difficult to get things sorted out when the engine's running and you're in the run-up. You're trying to describe to a rear seat passenger, oh, the plugs are kind of down here and one's smaller than the other and one bigger than the other. So I get my passengers seated in the back and the front, everyone's headsets plugged in, fire up all the electronics, and we do a real test here. Make sure that everything's working. And check, I can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Excellent. So now we have it. The volumes are working fine. Check to make sure all 4 of the seats are working properly so we can communicate. It's very distracting when we can't hear each other to try and diagnose that. Simple to do it here on the ground, a whole bunch harder to do it up in the air. Key trick that I've learned recently myself that I'm passing on to my students, in a carbureted aircraft, I teach them to prime during the pre-flight inspection. So straight away when they open up the aircraft, take out the control lock, give it the 2 or 3 shots, whatever it is that your instructors advise you or you're used to doing in the airplane, and then go complete the rest of your inspection. 10, 20, 30 minutes, doesn't matter. That gives the fuel that we've just put into the intake manifold plenty of time to evaporate. The engine will start quite nicely. It's especially important on a cold day, a winter day, when the fuel doesn't evaporate so readily. So I've added that to my checklist to do as soon as I open up the airplane and get in there. Next trick are instrument covers. These are used in instrument training when we need to hide one or more of the controls. Let's say we've simulated failing the attitude indicator so that we're going to fly strictly by reference to the turn coordinator for instrument training. It's a useful resource, but you can use it as a VFR pilot if something else were to fail. Let's say another instrument, the turn coordinator, for example, was going crazy and was distracting you. Cover it. Get it out of your view. You're not going to see it. It's not going to give you bad information, and it's not going to be distracting. So I advise all my clients to carry one of these in their flight bag. Instrument students all have them. VFR pilots can use it as well. The last thing that I suggest here in the aircraft is as you're checking out in a new airplane, dry fly it. Go get the key book, sit in the cockpit, and touch all the controls. Where's the throttle, the mixture, the flaps? Where's the flap gauge? How are the avionics set up? How do I adjust the altimeter? How do I adjust the attitude indicator? All aircraft are similar, but they're not all the same. Dry fly the airplane, get a feel for where all the controls are. Lighting for night flight. Where's the brake? In the 172, the brake conveniently hides right underneath the yoke. If you're not familiar with this aircraft, you might not be able to find it so quickly. And as you're doing that checkout of the aircraft, look at all the placards. Not all aircraft are the same. This is a 172M model, but it's not like every other one. There's a different engine in here, different propeller. There are placards throughout the aircraft that give us important information as to how we're going to operate the airplane. Most of them are standard. Some of them may be added after the fact. So make sure you familiarize yourself when you get into a new aircraft. The best way to do it is when the engine's not running. It's a lot less expensive, what we call dry flying the airplane.